Hey everybody, this is Danielle Miller here, and I'm with my co-hostess with the mostest today, Angel Sullivan, and we're going to be talking to you about branding and website design. This is our Rise and Shine learning series, and we are going to talk specifically about the intersection between having that resonant and aligned brand and how that translates into having this very responsive and nimble website that really showcases who you are, how you show up, and the work that you do. So, Angel, you want to go ahead and say hello?
Hello!
There she is.
Hi.
So, let us tell you a little bit. First of all, you can see here. Let me just get right in here and see if I can find my little handy-dandy PowerPoint presentation that I worked so hard on, and Angel brushed up and made pretty and all of that. So hang on here 1 second. All right. Okay, so first of all, we want to tell you that a little bit about who we are. I am a personal brand strategist for women entrepreneurs. Angel is a web designer extraordinaire. And the learning series is really about that intersection of a cohesive business that you love, that brand and website design intersection that really creates that very resonant and aligned presence that you want to have. So the other thing that we want to start talking about is a little bit about who we are. So you can see there we are in all our glory on this screen. And so, Angel, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about who you are, how you have chosen your path, and what you're doing.
Hi, I'm Angel. And like Danielle said, I am a website designer and developer. WordPress specifically is what I work with. And how I got to be here, really how it all started is when I've been in IT for years. I've been in IT in various positions, help desk positions, that kind of thing for years. And several years ago now, I decided that I wanted to just try something new and put my own website out there and just kind of play and see what I might be able to come up with. And it was called An Experiment in Gratitude. Some of you will remember. And the whole thing started when I hired someone to build my site for me. And the site came out beautifully. I didn't know anything about anything. And I found that my experience of the process was not what I would have hoped that it would have been. And in taking that whole thing, I just kept thinking, you know, I can do better than that. I can do better than that. The whole thing that really bugged me was, and I know that a lot of people have this experience of when you go to have a website built, there are all these details and all of these things that need to come together in order to make it all work. Yeah. And all come together in the right time. And the person that I was working with was just not as responsive as I would have liked. So I often was left kind of going, what's going on? Where are we with things? What do I need to do? Are you waiting for me? Am I waiting for you? What's happening? And I knew I could do better. So I started my own thing, and 4 years later, here we are.
Awesome. Awesome. So, and that's a really interesting thing, because from the perspective of somebody who had their website redesigned and done last year, and which is how you and I connected, because Angel has, if you're looking for an example of the amazing Angel's work, you can just go to daniellemiller.com, because Angel put that site together for me. And one of the things that was so remarkable about our experience was how not only did Angel really listen to what I wanted, what I really felt was important to my online presence, but she also which she won't probably admit to, but she's quite intuitive around that process as well. And and I think reciprocally, she kept saying to me, "Oh, this is so great that you have X, Y, and Z done around your brand, because now I can just go. I can just put these pieces in place, and we can get this thing done."
Yes.
So it was a very interesting process. It was the first time really that I had worked with someone who was so intuitive and responsive, and really, like, I really felt listened to the vibe that I wanted to put out there, how I wanted my personality to come across, how I wanted my message to be heard, and I threw some really weird things at her that, like I said, if you look on my site, I have a little chart that we fooled around with forever. But she knew what I wanted. We had talked about it, and Angel knew exactly what I wanted. It was just a matter of fine tuning it. But so the conversation between us has always come up around the role of the website designer in a personpreneur, a woman entrepreneur, a solo entrepreneur brand, and what sort of where that role starts and stops, and the role of a brand strategist, and sort of what they can bring to the table to help a web designer facilitate that person's vision. So that was really the impetus of us wanting to put this webinar series together, because we felt there was so much information that as brand strategists and as website designers, we really want those solopreneur people to know before they start the process, because your website is so important. So Angel, feel free to chime in here on that.
Yeah, I mean, can we maybe just go ahead and dive into the first part of the big why?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So this is really what we're going to talk about today, is what web designers wish that you knew before starting on your website. It's really an integral part of putting your presence out there, and like you said, that first part really starts with that big why. So talk to me about how that is so important, or why that's so important for a website designer.
What I've noticed is that when someone comes to me, and I mean, a lot of people will come and say, "Hey, I really want a website. I've got this business, or I've got this thing I'm starting, or I'm ready to take this to the next level." And it's easier for the folks who have kind of been doing it, and they've got an idea of what they're doing, and they're perfect people, and all of that stuff. But what I notice when is missing is the whole big why thing. Like, if you come to me and you want a website, you can't really articulate why you're doing what you're doing and what's underneath that. And I don't mean, when you ask that question, a lot of times people think, the first thing I thought when I first heard that question was, well, to make money, Yeah. That's why I'm in business. I want to make money. I want to support my family. But I don't mean that. I mean the why that's underneath that. Like, why did you choose this business? Why are you doing this particular thing? Why do you want to work with these particular people? What is it about that lights you up, that is going to keep you getting up in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
Why are those the things that kind of get you going and keep you going? And so the way that relates to your website is when you know that. And again, this is going to have a lot to do with the branding too, so hop in whenever. But when you know that, there's an ease in putting together the details of not only how does the website look, but how does it function, and how do your perfect people get around in the various places on the website. So the usability, the way that the layout is designed from page to page, and what happens when they land on your first page, and then how do they get to the next place, and where do you want them to go, and what do you want them to do? And it really ties into everything. Like, this is your foundation, and when you have this, like a hot knife through butter, it's just that smooth. But when you don't, it's just this kind of jerky stop and go, and you have to kind of figure each piece out as you go. So
yeah, I like that, hot knife through butter. That's awesome. But yeah, and that's the really interesting thing is that I know I did it before I worked with you. I did not really consider. I can remember back when I had my when I first invested in a website. Moving past the DIY stuff and setting up your WordPress thing, and spitballing it for a while. As you're starting to build traction and momentum. But the first time that I actually invested in a website, and I invested a good bit of money, nobody asked me those questions. And it's not a reflection on the website designer, because I think she was doing the best job that she could with the knowledge that she had and the knowledge that I had. But nobody asked me, so what do you want to have happen when people land on your website? What's the first thing they should do? Why is it important to you? Why is this thing that you're doing important? What's your why behind it? Besides, like you said, of course, we're all looking to have a comfortable income over what we do. We want to be valued for the work, and we want to have that manifest itself, financially. But going underneath that, what's the why? Why are you in this business? Why are you a solopreneur? What do you have to offer that is, first of all, different from everybody else out there, even if it's there's new information, and so what do you do within your specific field that sets you apart? Right. No, I never delved into that at all. So yeah, go ahead, speak to that.
I was going to say the thing that one of the things that I find interesting about that is that I don't want to talk about it as if it's something that it's like you set it and forget it and that's it. Like it's this static thing that never changes as you change and grow, because that's silly.
Right, and that's a big part of branding.
Yes, it's got to be able to flex with you and grow with you as you change and grow. And I'm even finding that right now for myself, right? I've had a good feeling for a couple of years now, I think at least, of the type of people that I want to work with and the type of work specifically that I want to do and why and all of that. But there's a refining process, I think, that happens as you continue to kind of go further and learn more and experience more and just get clearer and clearer with yourself and your branding. And I'm finding, too, that, and the reason that I brought this up during this part specifically is that as my own refining process happens, I'm realizing that I'm really leaning towards very clean, very simple, very, I like wabi-sabi. Like anything that's related to wabi-sabi, I am all about that. There's, I wish I remembered the quote. I wish I'd written it down. It's about remove, I'm going to totally butcher it. It's on my Facebook wall somewhere.
That's okay. Nobody will judge. It's all right. Go ahead.
I'll have to find it and send it out in the email. It's basically like remove everything extraneous, but don't remove the meat of it. Don't remove the good stuff, Like
the essence.
The essence of it, yes. I think that's actually the word that's used. Thank you.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so for me, I'm finding that that's affecting my why. That's affecting, my why is shifting as that shifts. Mm-hmm. And the people that I want to work with are shifting as that shifts. And so my look, my branding, my website, everything that I'm doing has to be able to kind of gracefully shift with that as it shifts. Right. So it's really an interesting process.
Mm-hmm. It is, and I think that's the thing too, is that's a really important point to bring up in all of this, is that this is not a static process, and again, there's this, I would almost call it a dance that there is between where you are right now, where you want to go, what you're learning, what you're experiencing, and running to your website every 3 hours and tweaking something.
Yes.
Right? And I'm sure you experience that all the time, that people contact you and say, "Oh, well, I want you to. Can you change this? Can you tweak this? Can you do this?"
I think I'm worse about that than anybody I work with, just because I can, you know.
That's right, because you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing, I mean, before we move on, and I know we need to kind of keep moving, but this thing about the why, um, there's that thing that people talk about wanting to have something that gets you up out of bed in the morning, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, this is a lot about that because, I mean, let's face it, with dealing with your website, with dealing with any technology stuff in general, with business stuff in general,
Mm-hmm.
there are going to be moments and there are going to be days that are just not fun and that we just don't want to deal with. And yes, as part of the process of building a site, I mean, you could speak to this, I'm sure. It's not always fun and it's not always easy. There are going to be challenges that come up, and when you have that kind of the foundation, the structure under you of this is why this is important to me, this is why I'm doing this, you can kind of lean back into that, and it's almost like it fuels you and it fills you up again to be able to step back in and go.
Yeah, yeah. It replenishes your energy
Yeah.
rather than focusing on the things that you're doing maybe at that moment that are draining your energy away. You know, maybe you wanted to do something that you thought was fairly simple, and 3 hours later, you're still struggling with trying to figure it out. You know, hello, welcome to the world of entrepreneurship. But I think that you made a really great point there in understanding and really internalizing why you're doing what you're doing, because that will always bring you back to center.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, this concept of knowing your brand inside and out. So when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want you to design my website for me," you know, how does that help you?
Oh my God, it's night and day. So my experience so far has been that probably more people than not, I'm trying to think back, don't really have for example, they don't necessarily have the information that you, Danielle, would put together for them and be able to hand off. So for us, what I have done with these folks is, I mean, we're starting at more or less square one. I want ideas of colors that speak to their brand, and then we sometimes need to talk about why and what these colors mean, and how they're how the different colors are perceived by, you know, even different cultures sometimes. Like, that's something that I've had to study and try and wrap my head around. And so then you just kind of point back to, okay, who's your ideal audience, who are your perfect people, and, you know, let's look at maybe how they would perceive them. And then you look at your fonts and you look at the way that the fonts interact with each other and how those are perceived. And then, you know, the layout and the design of the site itself, the home page and then the interior pages and the usability of it. I mean, when someone comes to me and they have all of these things that say, this is who I am, this is my brand, this is what my business is, does, who it serves, what it's about, what it cares about. Like, when you have all of this stuff, I mean, it's really just a matter of details.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the big picture. We have all the information we need. Now it's just a matter of compiling it and putting it all together in a way that your perfect people can really resonate with, will really connect with, and understand and appreciate. And when you don't have that, I mean, again, it's sometimes this really kind of jerky feeling process. It's like stop and go.
Start. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's night and day. It really is. I don't think people know. Well, I think one of the things that people don't know is that everybody does something different, you know?
Yeah.
Website people, website designers and developers are a dime a dozen. There are so many of us out there, and everybody does something different.
Yeah.
And so you don't really know necessarily what one person's going to do versus what another person will do and what they won't. I've seen some people won't even like upload your copy for you and format it on your site for you, which seems kind of strange to me, but okay. So you don't always know what's going to be included. Like, and I think some people sometimes expect that part of the website designer's process is going to be to help you figure out your fonts and figure out your colors and figure out all of these things, when the truth of the matter is that if you have someone like Danielle, like you, to put all of this together with you and to go through this whole big process that you go through and really get to the nuts and bolts of it, everything else is just going to flow. I mean, the experience that you can have developing a site when you've got your branding versus when you don't have your branding, again, it's just night and day. It's an entirely different experience.
Right. And we're going to talk about in not next week, but the following week, in the last part of the series, is sort of that voice and vibe of your brand, that personality, and really what underneath, just because you like a font doesn't mean that it's the most appropriate way to represent your brand and what you want to put out there. So there's really, there's really, even those are details that you might think are not necessarily important. They really speak to the vibe that you want your brand to have. And I want to bring up a comment that Aaron brought up, which I think is really so important. And he said, as a developer, I find myself telling clients almost every single project that no one can describe your business as well as you can. It seems a lot of them expect a developer designer to know about their company or the person or what they're about, which is just not true. This is a valuable topic for you to be addressing for business owners looking to invest in a website. Yes, and Aaron, the bacon is sizzling in the pan. That's like a running joke with us about bacon. But yeah, he brought up something, that's so important, because I think a lot of times when people look to hire a website designer, they expect you to intuitively get like what they're about and what their business is about and what their message is, and I think that's some of the confusion that happens around business owners hiring website designers, because that's really not what you do.
Right. And I think too that the what's the word? People don't necessarily even always have those answers themselves.
Yeah.
So then it becomes this process of trying to dig those things out, when really, again, this is the value of having someone who is a branding expert. Is for you, for example, you've got all these incredible tools that when you work with someone, you go through these fun exercises and processes, and just you have this entire experience lined up for someone, and that is what you do. You are sussing out all of these details.
Right.
And then again, so it's like you hand me this nice, neat package, and we're done in 2 weeks. Lickety split, no big deal. But yeah, I think you're right. I think people get confused about what's offered and what's not, and whose role XYZ is.
Yeah.
And it's not.
And we find that happens over and over again. And hey, Kristen, so glad you're here. Aaron said, please share those clients that come pre-packaged with all the necessary information about them. Wouldn't that be awesome? That's my job. That's what I do. I can do that for you. Because, then you have this disconnect where somebody is not totally and utterly in love with their website because there was something that was just not gone over, that was not teased out, that was not really refined in the process, and that happens so often. Yeah. I get clients come to me and be like, well, I don't like the way my website is right now. The person who did my website didn't get me. Well, that's not their fault. That's really not what a web designer such as yourself, you take, once those things have been really revealed and discovered, then you can run with that. Yeah. And you can create these really amazing websites.
Yeah. See, and I think this is a really good reason for us to have. This is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, is because I think when people get to me, they don't even necessarily know, like, I don't know, before you and I worked together, I didn't even really know there was such a thing as someone who would pull together my branding with me, you know? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I
Yeah.
think to start with, people don't realize that it's available, and then don't necessarily realize the value in it.
Hmm.
When really, I mean, again, like I said, the experience is night and day. And when you have those pieces that are professionally pulled together for you versus just, you know, because I mean, what I do with someone is if we have to choose fonts, we go to Google Fonts and we talk about, what do you like? Why do you like that? What works with that? And then we look at putting it together on the website, and how does it all come together from a design perspective? What does it say to someone? So I try to look at those pieces, but I mean, that's not my thing. My thing is to make it look pretty. What we
Right.
want is yes, we want it to look pretty, but we want it to look and feel like you, more importantly.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I really hope that the one thing that I really want to get across for this whole series more than anything is just, there is such extreme value in having a branding expert really do this with you versus someone like me that I'm just trying to get your website together. You know, I want it to look good and feel good, and I want it to look and feel like you. But in order to have that, it's really valuable to have the branding person do that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that, again, and this you can speak to this particular concept in so many different areas of entrepreneurship. The whole idea of having that structure then gives you the freedom to exercise that creativity, right? I mean, I think that's really a big crux of this too, is that you've got to have a container, you've got to have some sort of framework for what this all looks like and means to you in order for the designer to do their best work and bring that to life for you.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the things that Angel and I have talked about. We've had many conversations about this, and this is why we have also put together this really very special offering around the whole idea of having the brand and website design really be very cohesive and very in alignment, and it's a very special thing that we have joined together to do, because we're taking you basically from A to Z with the branding and website design process. So you get to get all the branding work done with me, and then Angel's gonna take all of that information and she's going to work her magic in making this beautiful, responsive, totally aligned website for you. And this is for the people who really consider themselves their business. We talk about personal branding and that you are your business, and this is really what this is about. This is really about how to differentiate yourself and showcase exactly who you are and how you show up.
Yeah. One of my favorite things I wanted to mention too about this offer is that this isn't something where you start with Danielle and she does all of her fabulous stuff and then just kind of dumps you off with me. Like, that's not what this is about. This is really what we want this to be, is something that feels just super supportive and very, very high touch and very personal and very personalized. And Danielle and I will work with you from beginning to end. We will work together, we will coordinate with each other, and make sure that you're not left trying to translate between us or to play, there's none of this like, oh, well, she said, oh, well, she said, oh, well, I think that meant no. We are going to be working together hand in hand the entire time through the process so that you feel supported and you can just kind of relax into the process and enjoy it versus stressing about all the details and all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a really big thing for both of us, because we've been on both sides of it.
Yeah.
As consultants and as people who want to have that website design and in a way and have our brand really reflect who we are and how we show up. So we've been on both sides of that coin. Hey, there goes my phone. Awesome. did not put my phone on mute, apparently. Yeah. Every little detail. So, and here's another thing that Erin brought up that I think is a really good point as well, and it's something that you alluded to, Angel, with the whole idea of the branding and knowing your brand inside and out. And that was explaining the overall value of the investment versus ROI, the return on the investment to a business owner who is not aware of everything that's available to them, is also a difficult topic to address, because there's a lot of intangible things that are going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important as well, because you're right. I mean, I think people in general, until they've been in business for a little while, they really don't, I think, quite grasp the importance of what it means to have a brand and what it means to really have that framework in place and very solid that allows you then to grow and evolve in a way that makes sense, and that makes sense for your right people, and it makes sense for your ideal audience and your right clients. And it really is so important. It's just so important.
Yeah, I've even just recently I've been reading blog posts in various places, people talking about just start, like just whatever your idea is, just start.
Right.
And just do it, and just even if you have to DIY something and start on Blogger or WordPress.com or whatever, just get going. And I think there's a lot of value to that. I appreciate that that approach, and I think there's a lot of intelligence to it. There's a lot of good reasons to do that. And I think there comes a point when you've decided, I'm serious about this business.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. This is going to support my family or support me or whatever the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's time to get serious about it in these various ways. And so this is what I'm going to do. And one of those things is branding, and then how that branding affects not only your website, but it touches the way you interact with people on social media, and the way you do things like this, or the way that, whether you do calls or write blog posts or do podcasts, it touches literally everything. And yeah, I think you're right. You don't necessarily know that. So again, it makes a lot of sense to just get started and start learning and get to know your perfect people and all of that, because then your brand is going to be even stronger and have more value moving forward. But again, I think a lot of people,
You got to start.
You got to start, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people get stuck though in the idea of, oh well, I've done this up until now. It's fine. I'll just carry on. And yeah, you can do that, and especially if things are successful and you're defining success in your way, and you're meeting those goals and whatever, that's great. And if that's not the case, again, I really think this is something that maybe more people could take into consideration.
Yeah, and I think as we said, we've put together this very special, we think it's very special offer in bringing the very best in collaborating around branding and website design. So this is a 3-part series, so we're going to be here again next week, and we're going to be talking about, let me see here, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about the elements of your brand and what that means, and let me share this. Okay, so we talked a little bit today, really a lot today, about what web designers wish you knew before starting on your website. So some of those really important brand elements that, it's not that a web designer can't do that with you, it's just that usually they're not, that's not part of what they want to do for you. They really want to get in there and get your website designed as quickly and as efficiently as possible, so that you can get on with the business of doing what you love doing. So we have like I said, we've put together a Rise and Shine offer, which if you have signed up for the learning series, you'll have the link for that as well. And I have that link for the learning series in the conversation on the event page. So make sure that you do that, because Angel's going to talk about something that she has for you here in a moment for today's webinar. I want to remind you that part 2 will be next Wednesday, February 25th, which happens to be the day after my birthday. Yay, the big 5-0 is coming. So who knows, maybe I'll be wearing a tiara or something like that. I don't know. It'll be at the same time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. And again, make sure that you get your goodies from today. So Angel, if you want to talk a little bit about what you have for today for everybody that joined us.
Actually, I'm wondering if we can hit the couple other pieces.
Oh, yeah.
The what do you want your ideal client to do?
Oh, yeah. We did miss that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes. I skipped right over that in my notes.
See, and I'm glad I did a screenshot. Okay, so the next piece is what you want your ideal client to do when they arrive at your online home, at your website, both the first time and subsequent times. One of the things that I find that people don't really think about is, like, you know, the whole idea of doing your website, like, it's super exciting, and oh, I'm going to have this great, beautiful new place, and I'm going to do my website, it's going to be awesome, and that's great. And if you don't know what you want people to do when they get there, I'm not going to be able to help you out as much as I could maybe otherwise. So one of the things that I love for people to consider is when someone first gets to your website, you land on the website, you sit there, you look at it, you have, like, I think the statistics say, like, 3 seconds or something.
Yeah, it's something like that, and it's not very long.
No, it's not. And so you want to consider what you want their first impression to be. And not only that, so hopefully their first impression is enough to draw your perfect people in. If you've got your branding on target and all of that is done, it's enough to draw your perfect people in. They're landed here. They're looking. They're checking it out. Okay, now what? Like, if you just have these pretty words, these pretty pictures, this pretty design, it's not going to get you very far. You've got to have an idea of what you want them to do when they're there, and what, like the call to action thing, you know. So you have a call to action somewhere right there on your homepage or wherever they land. There should be one actually on every page. On every page there should be something that's directing them just very smoothly and steadily to the next thing. But to think too about the different people who are coming. So somebody that lands there for the first time needs from somebody that lands there and already knows you and maybe likes you and works with you or has read your blog post or whatever. So to think about what you want these various people to do when they land there is, I mean, it's just super helpful. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
No, I think, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, and you're right, you have to consider that that user experience.
Yes.
When you're designing, you know, basically your online home is really what this is. You know, what do you want people to do? Because for the first, it's like your own home. Like the first time that somebody comes to your home, typically, you know, you're a little more formal, you're a little more, you know, not quite as ease as opposed to somebody who's been there multiple times and they kick off their shoes and curl up on the couch.
Right.
So, you know, kind of thinking about it in that way is, I think, really helpful, as you said, because different, you know, there's a different action that you want each person to take that comes to your website.
Yes, for sure.
So I think that's a great point that you hit on there, and I think the other thing that's a really important key is as you're thinking about that is thinking about what you're offering.
Yes, exactly, and actually that's the next piece.
Yay me! I didn't skip it.
And so not only the obvious stuff of what you're offering, but like what's under your offer. So I offer website design. That's great. But what I want to think about and make sure that I'm trying to get across underneath. So I want somebody to land on my website. I want them to feel, and I just did it just as I said that. I want them to feel at ease, and I want them to feel totally peaceful. I want you to feel like there's this great big wide open space, and that it's very soothing, very elegant, very clean. just not just the exact total opposite of like the yellow highlighter, red marker, click here, buy here, do this stuff, blinking and flashing on two sides. You're like, ooh, not that.
Yeah.
Just the exact opposite of that. So I have to think about that as I'm designing my site or as I'm building a site for someone else. Not only do I want it to speak to who you are, the business branding, the personal branding, however you have that set up, all of that, but also, how do I want somebody to feel and to react when they land there, and then to interact with the site, and as they're reading about your offers, I want them to think too, or not even consciously think about it, but just kind of subconsciously to be aware of, and this is where we kind of circle back to your big why, because I want them to kind of get a sense for your why and what's important to you and why you're doing what you're doing and why they're important to you and all of this. So it just kind of circles back in on itself, and it just, the whole thing, again, it feeds in on the branding and who you are and what you're about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and again, I think that the point that we really want to, that we're really trying to have you internalize in this whole process is that there are so many things to think about. Are you sneezing? Or are you coughing? What are you doing? You choking on your tea? What's going on over there? She's choking on her tea. All right, I'm just going to talk while Angel does the Heimlich on herself to get everything. But I think, that's why you hire, that's why you work with people like us, is because we think of all of those things for you, things that you didn't even know you didn't know in this whole process. It's so important to really start not only thinking about, but really internalizing how all of these things fit together, because it can seem very disjointed a lot of times, and you can always tell, as a website designer, when you go to a website, you can tell when something's been done in a disjointed way and it doesn't flow and there isn't, this very easy feel and flow to a website. And again, there are so many pieces to that. There are so many things to think about, and that you can get easily overwhelmed with all of those things if you do it by yourself, or if you haven't really taken the time to put that branding piece in place. So this webinar series is designed to help you think about all those things and how all of those pieces fit together in this really cohesive and beautiful mosaic.
Yeah. Speaking of which, actually, maybe this is the time to talk about the first free gifty.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, so what it is kind of a short-ish checklist of all the basic things that you want to consider when you're looking to build a site, do your branding, the things that if you were to come to me as a website designer to work on your site, and you were to hand me the answers to everything on this checklist, like, I would do this.
I would bow before you.
Yes, that would be awesome. So I just put together this little checklist, and then it's got a list of all the things that you want to consider and think about and start making notes on. Take it to your designer, take it to your developer, and then it's also got a kind of a glossary of terms, I guess, at the back of it to kind of describe the things that I'm talking about, because not everybody is familiar with all the techie stuff, and so I just kind of break those down a little bit and describe them.
Awesome.
A little packet.
Great. Awesome. And you'll get that automatically for signing up for the webinar series. Next week, we're going to talk about brand elements and what 3 essential brand elements you really need to have in place before you start working with a website designer. These are so important and will really help lay the groundwork to having that beautifully designed website that you want. We're also going to talk about the page on your website that you're probably not paying enough attention to. And Angel and I, actually last night I messaged her real quick and I'm like, hey, do you have any really great examples of what I'm talking about here? And she's like, no, I don't know. So we're going to work on that this week for everyone, because again, we all like examples. We all like things that we can sort of take a look at and say, oh yeah, okay, well that makes sense to me. But we're gonna give you the elements of this page and tell you really underneath what you should be thinking about as you start working on this particular page on your website, because it's so important. And then we're going to, in the next week on our last webinar series, we're going to really dive into the voice and vibe of your brand and how those things are represented visually on your website, what a brand strategist does to help you suss them out and tease them out, and how that can be really wonderfully represented in your online presence. So that's what we have coming up for you in the next few weeks, and we're looking forward to sharing those things with you as well. So was there anything else you wanted to cover today?
I
think we got it.
I think that was everything. Yeah, that was all my notes.
Okay, I think we got it all today. Great, awesome. So yeah, so we went a little bit over today, which we kind of knew because we had so much information, which is the reason we broke it up into 3 webinars. Because as we were planning this, we knew that we had a lot of information we wanted to talk about with everyone. So if you have not done so, please make sure that you sign up for the learning series, so you can get the checklist that Angel talked about, and we'll have additional goodies each week for each webinar. You can also go to our website. Angel, you want to tell people where to find you?
Mine is just angelsullivan.com. It's ANGELSULLIVAN.com.
Okay, and I'm at DanielleMMiller.com, and you can learn more about our Rise and Shine offer that we have. This particular offer, as we said, is a very special offering, and we are holding a special place for 2 people for this particular offering, that you can take a look at that and see if you'd like to be one of our pioneers and
Yes.
Trailblazers.
Trailblazers, yes.
That's right. Be a trailblazer, baby. And that offer is only for 2 people, so you can check that out at both of our sites. We both have the same page on both our sites, so you can get in touch with either one of us if you have any questions about it, if there's anything you'd like to talk about. When you look at the page, as you read through it, you'll see everything that we're offering with that. And then if you'd like to learn more about it, we have a short contact form that you can fill out, and we'll get in touch with you to have a conversation, because this is a very serious thing. This is an extremely significant investment in your time, in your money, and we want to make sure that it's a great fit for all of us, because we take that very seriously, because we want you to show up you know, as brilliantly as we know you can.
Yeah.
So, okay?
Beautiful.
Okay, I think that's it for today, right?
Yep.
Alrighty. Okay, everybody. Well, we will see you next week at the same time, 1 o'clock Eastern, February 25th, and we'll talk about all those brand elements and have a little bit of fun with that as well. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.